Okay, so we're diving into a case that is uh, really just baffling, honestly. The disappearance of Brandon Swanson, and we've got a whole bunch of information here, but it's our job to kind of pick out what are the most important parts of this whole thing, the details that make it so weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not about just throwing out any random theories, but really trying to understand, you know, what do we actually know? And maybe even more importantly, what don't we know? We're going to try and give you the clearest picture we can about this unsettling event.
Totally. And let's just like set the scene here. We're talking May 14th, 2008 in rural Minnesota. 19-year-old Brandon Swanson disappears.
Mm.
And get this, he's on the phone with his parents when it happens. And the last thing they hear him say is, "Oh, shit." Like, how crazy is that? Just gone.
Yeah, no, it really sticks with you, doesn't it? And that's one of the things the source material just throws at you right away. It's this really disturbing situation.
Yeah.
He's dealing with what seems like a super minor problem. His car is stuck, but then he's just gone. You wouldn't expect that to happen normally, would you?
Absolutely not. No. So who was this guy? Brandon. Well, from what we've been able to piece together, he seems like a pretty normal 19-year-old, you know? Studying wind energy at Minnesota West Community and Technical College. Just your average independent, you know, friendly young guy.
Right. And it's important to think about what he was doing that night, too. He'd been celebrating the end of the semester with his friends in Canby. It was May 13th, 2008. So he was probably feeling pretty relaxed, maybe a little tired after hanging out with everyone, but nothing that makes you think, oh, something bad is about to happen to him.
Right, exactly. He left Canby around midnight to drive back home to Marshall. Should have been like a 30-minute drive tops. But sometime after 1 in the morning, everything changes. His car ends up in a ditch. But here's the thing, the car wasn't even damaged, it was just stuck.
And that's what's so strange about it. You wouldn't think a car stuck in a ditch with no damage would lead to someone just disappearing. It makes you think that whatever happened next had to be really sudden and unexpected. Doesn't seem connected to the car at all.
Yeah, totally. Which brings us to this phone call. Around 1:54 a.m., Brandon calls his parents, Brian and Annette. At first, everything seems normal. He's calm, he's explaining that he needs a ride, and he thinks he's close to Lind.
And, the fact that he calls his parents right away tells you something about him, too. It shows he trusts them and has a normal relationship with them. It doesn't sound like he was trying to hide something or in some kind of trouble he didn't want them to know about.
Exactly, and this call goes on for almost 47 minutes. Imagine that. You're his parents, you're driving around in the dark trying to figure out where your son is. And during the call, Brandon mentions he can see some lights in the distance. He thinks it's the town, so he starts walking towards them. He's still talking to his dad on the phone, and he says he's on a gravel road.
That detail about the gravel road is going to come back later, and we'll see it doesn't actually add up.
Right.
It also shows Brandon's a resourceful guy. He's not just sitting around waiting for help to come. He's actively trying to find his way out of this situation.
Yeah, but then, and this is the part that always gets me, out of nowhere, Brandon just says, "Oh shit," and then the call drops. That's it. Silence. And no one ever hears from him again.
It's so eerie, right?
Yeah.
That sudden exclamation and then the silence. It's like something just happened to him. Oh shit. Makes you think he suddenly realized something or saw something, maybe even heard something. Maybe something physically happened. We just don't know. And it's those questions that make this case so unsettling.
So obviously his parents freak out. They try calling him back over and over again. Nothing. They spend the rest of the night driving all over those rural roads looking for him or his car. By 6:30 in the morning, they still haven't found anything, so they report him missing.
And the way the police reacted at first, thinking maybe he just wandered off to cool down, well, it kind of shows how sometimes missing adult cases are handled. Sometimes the police don't take it seriously right away. They don't think something really bad has happened. That delay can be a huge problem, even if it wasn't intentional.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So the next day, they make a really important discovery. Brandon's car wasn't anywhere near Lynn's like he thought. It was near Taunton, which is almost 25 miles northwest. That's a huge difference. And it makes everything we thought we knew about that phone call totally different.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
This mistake about where he was, it just raises so many questions. Why did he think he was near land? Was he tired, confused? Was it the late hour or something else entirely? Maybe he drove way further than he realized before his car got stuck.
Yeah.
We have to figure out why his perception of his location was so off if we want to understand what happened.
Makes sense. So with this new information, the search gets more intense. They bring in search dogs, and incredibly, they pick up Brandon's scent and follow it for over 3 miles. The trail goes along gravel roads, through fields, and even near the Yellow Medicine River.
It's amazing, right? The fact that the dogs could track his scent that far tells us he was definitely walking. and it gives us a possible idea of where he might have been headed. But here's the thing that's really strange. The centrail just stops abruptly. There's no sign of a struggle, no blood, no torn clothing. It's like he just vanished into thin air.
And that lack of any physical evidence at the end of the trail, it's what makes this case so mysterious. It leads to all these different theories about what happened to him. And the source material we have lays out the three main possibilities. The first one is that he accidentally drowned in the Yellow Medicine River.
Right. But even though the river was close to where the scent trail ended, they searched that river and the riverbank really thoroughly, and they never found a body. And this is important. They didn't find any other evidence that he'd even been in the water.
Hmm.
Usually when someone drowns, there's something left behind, some clothing, maybe a personal item, but there was nothing.
So the second theory is that something bad happened to him, foul play. Did he run into someone while he was walking, someone who might have wanted to hurt him?
That's a possibility. But here's the problem with that theory. There's just no evidence to support it. The investigators didn't find any sign of another car in the area. No extra tire tracks. Nothing to show that anyone else was there at the spot where the scent trail ended. Without any of those clues, it's hard to say for sure that someone else was involved.
Okay, so then there's the third theory, that something else happened to him, some kind of accident. Maybe he fell into a well or a cistern that nobody knew about, or maybe he got injured somehow, and because it was so late and he's out in the middle of nowhere, he couldn't get help, and he died from exposure.
That's another possibility. But the biggest problem with that theory is that even after all these years and all the searching they've done, no one has ever found his body.
Hmm.
Usually when someone dies in an accident like that, especially out in the open, there's something left behind, some kind of trace.
Yeah.
But there's nothing. And that's what makes this whole thing so frustrating.
Yeah, it's like a puzzle with half the pieces missing. The source material really emphasizes how hard this has been for Brendan's parents. The last thing they heard was that fear in his voice when he said, "Oh shit," and then silence. Nothing. Imagine what they must be going through.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But something good did come out of this horrible situation.
Yeah.
Brandon's parents fought really hard for change. And because of them, Minnesota now has Brander's Law.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That law says that the police have to start investigating missing person cases right away, no matter what, even if they think the person just wandered off.
It's a huge step forward for families in situations like this. Before this law, families sometimes had to wait before the police would even start looking. And that lost time can be really crucial.
Absolutely. So even though it's been years and there have been a lot of investigations, we're still left with that one big question. What happened to Brandon Swanson that night?
The source material really wants us to think about the possibilities. Did Brandon get lost and confused and wander to some kind of danger? Was there someone else there even though there's no physical evidence? Or did something happen to him that we haven't even thought of, something that left no trace?
It's scary to think that someone can just disappear like that. What do you think happened? What are your thoughts on this whole thing? It's so unsettling.
If anyone listening has any information at all about what might have happened to Brandon, no matter how small or unimportant you think it is, please contact the Lyon County Sheriff's Office in Minnesota.
Yeah.
You never know what little detail might help them figure this out.
This case really makes you think about how vulnerable we are, how quickly things can change, and the mystery of not knowing what happened to someone. It's a reminder that sometimes there are just no answers. Some questions are left unanswered, and that's a really tough thing to accept.
It is,
Hmm.
we try to make sense of things, but sometimes there's just this void. And it's a reminder that there's so much we don't know about the world and what can happen.